Hi, Jim Bergen here. I'm the pastor at Holy Cross Lutheran Church in Houston, Texas. This is Pentecost 16 in the B series. The Big Question. We know that Mark is a book full of questions. Jesus is asked leading questions to trip him up and discredit him. Disciples ask questions because they're confused and seek clarification. Jesus asks questions to counter rabbinical interrogations, and Jesus also poses questions to teach and clarify things for his followers. In terms of brand management, in terms of future expectation, where the questions are asked is also very important. For example, where did you propose a lifelong commitment to your better 7/8? Calling them better half doesn't give them near enough credit. Was it on the concrete apron of the Harley shop while you were installing a new S&S carburetor? Or was it while dining formally at the fanciest restaurant in town? You will always remember that moment, and so will your partner. So where you pop the big question has considerable import. Jesus pops the big question to his disciples at Caesarea Philippi. Who do you say that I am? This is the driving question of the Gospels. It is the most important question of human history. According to Orthodox religious practices, asking this question in this place, Caesarea Philippi, is a public relations nightmare. All the best brands are there. Managing but growing the small Jesus brand will be impossible. Overlooking the city as a temple to Caesar, he claimed to be a god. Competing with him are the large worship centers of the Phoenician god Baal and the Greek god Pan. Everywhere you looked, there were monuments to pagan gods. One cave in the area was supposed to be the entrance to the underworld and was a place where you sacrificed swine. The disciples were devout Jews, opulent, rich, and seriously unclean. This setting would make them very nervous. They're on the spot when Jesus asks them, "Who do people say that I am?" They want him to win the day. They want him to make the best impression. They want to be his public relations team with the best spin. From their viewpoint, hanging out with Jesus was probably sometimes frustrating. Certainly it was exciting, occasionally mind-blowing, always interesting. And about the time you go to brag on him and tell everyone that you can corner about him, he says, "Cool it. It's not about me. It's about God and his kingdom." The apostle business was tricky. Jesus wasn't interested in a highly competitive, spin-doctoring public relations team. The disciples were in a position to pool their resources and clear a path for him with swords and shekels, a path to the highest office. Jesus just kept saying, "Relax, be a disciple, take up your cross and hang with me. Trust God." The disciples wanted to smash sin, and he kept telling them, smashing is a sin. If you want to fight, that's fine, but it won't change anything. Because if you fight them, you join them. You have to share tactical rules of engagement. Here's a thought. If you'd like to change your enemies and bad sinners, forgive them. Now, who am I? Peter says, "You are the Christ, the anointed one, the Messiah of God." But the implication is that all of the sacrifices of the believers will go to Jesus, the best God in town. For those sacrifices offered, he will destroy the other gods and their Gentile believers. He'll restore the Jewish nation and bring peace and power and prosperity to Israel. Jump those wish dreams 20 centuries into the future, you have a caricature. If Jesus were to appear today, he'd have to do a PR tour to manage his brand. Maybe a book and a film, and some sequel options. Maybe a prequel after the second sequel to show how it started. Lots of autographs, a spot on Dancing with the Stars, or a big sweep for female disciples on The Bachelor. Form a rock band and call them the Apostles. You need to do a video and get it into heavy circulation on MTV. Have to be a slick show, no glitches, large critical audience out there. And all the work and planning will be worth it when the YouTube likes start pouring in. Hey man, just saw JC and the Apostles. Awesome dude, played 3 hours. Gave out free bread and wine and sushi. The encore was a transfiguration. He hologrammed past saints on the stage. 2 Jims, Hendrix and Morrison. 3 buddies, Holly, Miles, and Rich. 3 Johns, Bach, and Lennon, and Winter. Richie Valens and Hank were there, along with Paganini, Janis, Elvis, and 2 Georges, Harrison and Handel. Where this all-star jam thing was like a 30-minute cover of Grace Wada's Stairbird. Everybody wants to hang with a hard rock winner, not with a stoner that was rejected. Trouble is, in a world of solipsism, and conquest, and empire, Jesus looks soft. A rejected cornerstone loser, right up to sunrise on Sunday. He told them about his suffering and his rejection and his death on the cross, and after 3 days being raised from the dead. That's not a brand most people wait in line for tickets to. Jesus tells his best friends, you don't have to sacrifice to me like they do here to all the gods in Caesarea Philippi. I am the sacrifice for you. The rejection already starts here. Peter rejects that idea promptly and rebukes the Son of God. Jesus replies matter-of-factly to him, get behind me, Satan. You're not on the side of God, but of men. It simply means back me up here. Don't be an enemy. Don't be an obstructionist. My brand bears no relationship to, and is not in competition with, Caesar, Baal, or Pan. Jesus expects a low profile. More lives will be saved by living authentic lives, under the radar of the rich and famous. We're here to promote God, not ourselves. So we try to answer the big question that Jesus asks, who do you say that I am? Mark's gospel is direct. Don't kid yourself. Jesus is 100% human and 100% God. He has to suffer. He had to experience mortality, which is something that none of us really appreciate on bad days. Peter thought maybe he'd signed up for something else. It's like the lady that was getting into shape by running 5 miles a day. She was getting pretty good. She entered a local 10K race, a little over 6 miles, for the fun of it. She ran those first 5 miles feeling great, but wondering where's the turnaround point. She asked a fellow runner, where's the turnaround for this race? He said, 8 miles ahead. This is the Cleveland Marathon, lady. 10K is at the starting line right now. She went ahead and finished the race. She said that she was thinking, this is not the race I trained for. This is not the race that I entered. But this is the race that I am in. When Jesus says, take up your cross and hang with me, Peter's naturally afraid for his life. I can't blame him. The human will naturally moves towards safety and comfort. God's will covers everything, every contingency. God's will is part of every peaceful and painful present. Peter's trying. He occasionally obstructs as he learns to get with Jesus' program. He is not rejected. Hey, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly at first. None of us, after our first attempt at walking, said, well, that's that. I looked really stupid falling on my diaper and I won't try that again. Hey, you got to crash that bicycle to figure out how to ride it. When self-preservation is our central aim, we're never safe. When we're committed to surrender to the disturbances that compassionate living raises, we're never in danger. Through the suffering, rejection, death, and resurrection of Jesus, the anointed Messiah of God, we're given ultimate permission to live and thrive. I'm tremendously thankful that I have the privilege of experiencing a Christ-centered world and worship. The answer to the big question is clear. The Herod brand is harrowing. Hanging with Christ is freedom. Amen.